Good morning, good afternoon, or good night, depending on where you are. My name's Simon, and I'm here to share with you my experience with installing firmware 1.1.1 for the Canon EOS R5 Mark II and my daily experience with it. Is firmware 1.1.1 a bug fixer? Does it improve our workflow somehow? Or is Canon just tossing us a bone so that we can stop complaining about it? Spoiler alert, I didn't lose autofocus. The camera didn't overheat, and it didn't burst into flames when I finally slotted a 4TB Angelbird card into the camera. But first, please punch that subscribe button. Thanks so much. It means an awful lot to us. Like a kid getting a pet panther for Christmas, minus all that parental regret. Let's start with the fun bit, storage. As I'm sure you're aware from my past several videos, Canon now supports 8TB CF Express cards. And you're probably also aware that I loaded up my 4TB Angelbird AV Pro CF Express V3 card. Why? Well, because apparently I hate money and I enjoy filming far too much. Wildlife. The first time I tried to format the CF Express card, the 4TB card in the R5 Mark II, it didn't go well. But I found a solution. Step 1, format it in the R5 Mark I. That worked. Step 2, put it back in the R5 Mark II. That also worked. No freezing the camera. Step 3, format it in the Mac using disk utility and replicate the failure. And it didn't replicate the failure. So here's my completely unscientific yet oddly persuasive conclusion. The issue has, well, in my case, the issue had something to do with something that was in the partition table. Now, again, the R5 Mark II is clearly more sensitive than the Mark I because the Mark I didn't have any problems recognizing the card. Perhaps the Mark II is a bit of a diva. But ever since formatting it with the Mark I, the R5 Mark I haven't been able to reproduce the issue, so I can now access 4TB of storage glory. So now let's move on to the big talking points, the ones floating around the forums like a seagull at a chip shop. Autofocus issues? None. Battery performance? Absolutely normal. I didn't spot anything suspicious or anything heroic. And video performance? Fantastic. Now, I did spend the better part of the last 2 weeks recording 4K fine, because if your CF Express card isn't having a nervous breakdown, are you truly giving it a hard time? Now, still shooting was split between RAW and HEIF files, because I enjoy deep data and modern formats that make Lightroom groan in absolute protest. Again, no crashes, no hiccups, no issues, no overheating, nothing. No panic button smashing, just smooth shooting, including, well, these concert shots, these concert video clips, I should say. Great content. It worked really well. I was able to forget about the firmware and just shoot. That's really the true test of a firmware update. If you can put it on your camera, go out and start shooting, and forget that you've updated it, that's a positive sign. But since I didn't run into any issues, I wanted to see what others were experiencing. DP Review says, Canon's latest update appears to be aimed at quiet stabilization, correcting minor formatting issues and improving back-end reliability, especially for high-capacity media, which is essentially reviewer code for, well, don't expect any new features in this update. The digital picture says, sports photographers will benefit from the option to save servo AF to better focus on subjects that are behind nets, and it promises improved autofocus tracking during video capture for subjects that are difficult to focus on. This isn't a Christmas present. It's Canon's quietly tidying up the mess after the party kind of update. No new codecs, no real autofocus upgrades, but more or less cleaning things up and bringing them to where the camera should have been in August when it first started shipping. August of 2024. No 32-bit audio. And I gotta say though, this one was relatively calm, functional, necessary, and without any issues. Here's the bigger picture. The R5 Mark II is a solid camera. I bought a lot of lenses, I've been shooting with it for over a year, and I like it. But firmware 1.1.0 caused a bit of concern, especially for users with large capacity cards or complex workflows. This update is Canon's way of saying, don't worry, we see the problem, we just don't want to talk about it out loud. It also confirms something that we've suspected, that the R5 Mark II is just a wee bit more sensitive than the Mark I when it comes to, well, formatting, partitioning, and initialization. If you're using high-capacity media, keep this in mind, and maybe don't be the first to format a 12 terabyte card when it comes out. And no, I'm not aware of any 12 terabyte cards, let alone 8 terabytes. The last thing I checked, the 4 terabyte card was the absolute biggest one out there. So the big question many of you have been wondering, should you update and install firmware 1.1.1 on your Canon EOS R5 Mark II? Well, I did, and over the last 2 weeks, I didn't have any problems. If this is your only camera, well, then do some homework. Check to see what's updated and whether it affects you or not. However, one thing you definitely want to do is back up your settings first. I always do. Starting with the R5, you now have the ability in the wrench menu to go ahead and save your settings. That's a big deal because if you ever have any problems or you have to send it in for service and things get reset, you can bring your settings back. Now, for me, it didn't break anything else in my workflow. And that's not necessarily groundbreaking. But there were a few noticeable updates, which I'll get to in just a moment. But the main thing is I did find that the autofocus system pretty much worked flawlessly without me having to power cycle the camera. Okay, for those major updates, or I should say the more noticeable updates with firmware 1.1.1. It's the middle of the day, I just can't speak today. Canon adds a case-special servo AF mode that improves tracking for subjects that are hidden behind nets or behind nets, and this includes volleyball, badminton, hockey. This improvement is far bigger than it seems on paper. The update also improves autofocus tracking in video. It improves image stabilization, fixes multiple ER70 errors, and FTP transfer bugs. And of course, as I started off this video, it enables support for CF Express cards up to 8 terabytes. Perfect for those of us filming in the middle of nowhere. After working with this firmware update for the better part of 2 weeks, I gotta say, it's a good solid update without any fanfare. If we were to put this into some sort of analogy, it's kind of like Canon walking into a quiet room and quietly, surreptitiously, putting a single card back into the card slot, straightening the curtains, and walking out again. And honestly, that's just fine. Since Canon released the R5 Mark II back on August of 2024, I had the camera. And I gotta say that other than, a few issues, it felt largely polished to me. I didn't have the battery issues, and if you did, well, then definitely contact Canon and see about getting support for that, because a lot of people that I heard were having PCBs replaced. I shot all the way down to minus 18 Celsius last winter without any issues. The only time I had problems was when the temperature was between 0 degrees Celsius and 10 degrees Celsius, so 32 to 50. No other issues. So I got to say that this update has just, I'd say it's a housekeeping update. The only issue was, again, those high-capacity cards throwing a tantrum for me. And again, I was able to solve that problem. And again, what I think was going on here, because this wasn't a new card, I had used the cards before for various reasons. We've all done this, right? And really, shame on the R5 Mark II, it should be able to handle this better. So most likely what was going on there, again, repeating what I said earlier, is that there was some sort of data in the partition table that made the R5 Mark II go, ooh, I don't know what to do here, and just completely froze up. But if that's your situation, then borrow a Mark I to format the card. That worked for me, and you should be off to the races. That's pretty much it for this firmware update. Leave us your thoughts in the comment section down below, because maybe you had a different experience, and we'd certainly like to have a discussion so that others watching this video can then read the comments to see what your experience was like. And also, please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're feeling a little bit wild, use my product links below. It really supports this channel and keeps away those really annoying VPN and Squarespace ads that are now running between 30 seconds and up to 3.5 to 5 minutes on some channels. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you on the next video.